Hello, everybody. Hope you're doing marvelously well. It is what is it? It is Wednesday.
Wednesday, January, something like 16th.
Wednesday, January, there's something or other.
Yeah.
And it's, what is happening to LA? Anyway, we'll talk about it in a second. This is David from Mixbus. How are you?
Hello, everyone. Hello, Maureen. Thank you for having me.
Great to be here. The reason why we're talking about it is because it's been pouring with rain solidly for the last 3 days.
I just moved here. I was like, hey, finally, sunny California.
I know, you moved from Italy, I moved from England.
Yeah.
Come here, and it's raining.
It's been raining every day.
Yeah, but it's nice to see it in the rain. And I don't know if you noticed when you came up here, it was like all that mist over the canyon.
It was beautiful, actually.
Yeah, so it's nice to have a little bit of that because you feel like you're in Europe a bit.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
Because when you're in LA, for those of you that aren't in LA, if you drive about 10 minutes out of the city, it's like a wasteland of desert.
Yep.
There's not much going on.
So. No, not really. It's all about the city, yeah.
It's all about the city.
It's all about the city.
So you've been here a few weeks now. Are you loving it?
I've been here for a couple of months, actually. Time flies.
Wow, really?
But yeah. And we met actually right when I got here. Yeah. And I love it. Things are going great. Lot of work, a lot of productions, a lot of great collaboration, like the one between you and me going on. And I'm very happy. There's a lot to do. This competitive city is also meritocratic somehow, Or at least I want to believe that, if you got the skills and you put the work.
I think it is. Yeah? I don't feel, maybe I've been here a while now, I don't feel so much of the competitiveness. Maybe I used to when I was first here, but I also think the prizes were so big.
Yeah.
Getting the album was such a big paycheck. And now with like rock and stuff in particular, it's more about rolling up your sleeves and working long hours.
Yeah, definitely. I don't see competition in a negative way.
Yeah.
More like pushing each other because
I agree.
Because you see people do great things here. And probably I shouldn't have set competition, more like inspiration somehow.
Sure.
Like, because really you see a lot of people doing great things.
Yeah.
Even with little, sometimes just off great ideas, and you go, hey, I have to up my game if I want to make it. That's kind of feeling that I got.
Well, you do great work, so
Thank you so much. You too.
I also think you've got a nice crossover because you're really good at rock.
Yeah.
Which is great. But, with that MC Solar album under your belt, I think maybe a lot of people watch both our channels are in Europe and everything, and MC Solar, they know exactly what we're talking about. But, I remember, what was the album? It was, you remember Urban Species and Guru? And
with Guru.
Yeah, and this is like in the mid-90s.
Yeah.
And it was part of the acid jazz scene in the UK. And, MC Solar was like everywhere.
Oh yeah. At the time with what it was with Guru, it was like it was big.
Yeah, Jazz Mataz.
Jazz Mataz, exactly. And later on, he went to work with Missy Elliott. He did that big single. It was like, but he was like, he was always pointed out as that jazzy kind of part of hip hop, like more poet. If you want, then straight up hip-hop.
Which is great for me because that sort of almost goes back to where it came from, because you go back to Gil Scott-Heron and you go back to a guy, like rapping, like beat poetry, whatever you wanted to call it, but it was over some of the greatest jazz being played as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, to me that's one of my favorite kind of periods when it came to like rap and the way it was like working in Europe. So that must have been pretty exciting to do that gig.
It was exciting. He was on a hiatus for 7 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was a big responsibility for me, because they picked me, and I can tell you how that went.
Did you have to do a trial mix or something?
I did have to do a trial mix,
right?
And it was for one of the singles. It was called The Mirabelles, and the reason, because they picked me in the end because that song is a hip hop song.
Yep.
With some reggae influences, nonetheless. And it ends with a straight rock part. So they were like, hip-hop artists might not necessarily be able to make that rock part.
And vice versa.
Yeah. And so they tried. And, I got, of course, that the rock part was like, hey, that's my territory. I got no problem.
Right.
But everything else was so inspiring because, he's got a flow that is so unique. It's amazing. And the whole album from the after that mix, we did the whole album. It was like crazy modern hip hop, of course, but definitely I can think of at least 2-3 songs. Super Gains Bar is one that has that 007 vibe movie, like 70s movies. That's great instrumentation, great arrangements. It was a great album. It went double platinum. It won best album of the year 2018.
Fantastic.
So it's like, yeah, it was good.
That's great. No, I mean, it's a huge deal in Europe, and I think, but you know, like you're saying with the Missy Elliott, there's probably people that know him over here. But when I think about it, I've made the mistake as a more rock guy. When I mixed hip hop, I didn't quite understand how important the production was. Now, that might sound a bit obvious, but it wasn't to me. So when I mixed hip hop, I might take a drum sound and be like, oh, I don't like that. And I change things quite dramatically. And then I turned it into the artist. The artist is like, what have you done to my song? Yeah. I'm like, what do you mean? I just changed the kick. It wasn't working for me. And they're like, no, you don't understand. That's the groove. That's the sound of the song, is that beat. So I think for rock guys, we have to learn, like, you know, how to respect that part of the process.
Yeah. And if anything, like, it's more common when we mix rock that we are asked to enhance a lot more these acoustic drums, the acoustic recorded sounds. In hip hop, no, it's more like such a fine detailing. What is already there, you know. And they want that, so even if we don't necessarily like that snare sound, you know. And rock people probably will understand what we are saying, but that's their sound. You're not supposed to trigger it, change it, or anything. Just supposed to enhance. And by keeping its identity as is it, and like that, especially the beat is so important for hip hop guys. And you have more freedom. I had a lot of freedom in this album to play with the melody instruments, keyboards, and all the other arrangements. There were actually a lot of played guitars in this album, and actually real strings. Because it was a big production. They went to record. I don't remember if it was Vienna or something, like real strings for this album. And I had more freedom to play with the music instrument than the beat. The beat was like, make it hit as hard as you can, you know, and that was pretty much it. You need to respect that sound.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, that was something on my first foray into hip hop I didn't get. Yeah, I was changing it far too much, and they're like, "What are you doing to my song?" I'm like, "Oh, you know."
Yeah, I know. I feel you.
Yeah, and I think, you know, when we're working in a purely organic way with like mic'd up drums and stuff like that, you know, it's a lot more work. It's a lot more work because we're so used to, like, you know, when you're working with artificial stuff, you're used to, like, here's a beautifully recorded kick drum that's being triggered. Well, you know, you're at the mercy of a performer. No matter how good they might be, there's tons of other issues with bleed and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's you're a lot more politically correct than I am on your channel, and you know that. But I always say this, and I'm not afraid of saying it. Who mixes? Who's used to mix rock, metal, and all this genre? They have like real recorded instruments,
right?
They have a lot more work to do. And that's also why I think when we go mixing computer music, we kind of have it a little bit easier because we are used to, before even getting to the mix part, we have to deal with all the problems that real recording, you know, bring to the table, like bleeds and resonances, a mic moved or wasn't placed right, or, you know, it's okay for one song but not the next one. The tuning of the drum was a little bit off by the end of the session. You know, we have to deal with something like that, and tons of guitars and mics and track counts too. I've seen, as I'm sure you did too, even our colleagues, when they mix hip hop and R&B or any other kind of genre, the track count is not even close to what we get when we mix rock and metal. I mean, come on. I got like 200 plus mixes, 200 plus tracks mixes. When I was actually talking with Neil Pogue a couple of days ago. For those who don't know, he did Outcast Aya and TLC Waterfall. So we're talking big tracks. And I was like, out of curiosity, I asked him how many tracks was Eya Outcast, like such a big, gigantic success. It was like something like 30, 20 to 30.
Yeah.
And it was like, I was expecting low count, but not that low, but it's also inspiring.
Sure.
Because I also think that track count, like limitless track count today is a problem.
Sure.
You know, I don't think you can record that much better with 200 tracks than you could do with 100. Let's face it.
Yeah, I think some of it I understand though, because you think of like Queen's my favorite band, everybody on the planet who watches me knows that. But obviously they were committing to like huge harmonies. Now, and so, but at the same time, somebody sends you like 80 vocal tracks. Mm-hmm. It might be that 10 of those aside creates a left and a right. And as long as they give you the balances, it's essentially 2 tracks, 1 left, 1 right.
Absolutely.
So I there's a part of me that understands if you've created a balance that you like and it's the way you want to hear it, and then you just pan it left and right and bust it together and hand it off to somebody. They can choose to bounce it to 1 track if they want.
Absolutely.
And I think that's the part I understand. The bit that I don't understand is when there's been no decision made. Mm-hmm. It's like, here is 100 tracks of backgrounds, and I have no idea where they're going to be panned. Yeah. What the blend is or whatever. That's when it's like mind blowing, because you're just looking at like all of these backgrounds going, how do you want them panned? Yeah. And what's the blend? Is there supposed to be a high line featured, or is it the mid, or whatever?
It wouldn't be even our job as a mix engineer to make that decision.
Right.
You know,
right. That's a production.
That would be a production decision. And I'm fortunate enough to work with that producer that they do their job. Right. A few times that happened to me, and I was like, at that point, you had to actually, make the decision: am I gonna mix this and like work even the producer part? Right. Or just tell them, like, hey, make a decision. Sure. Just tell me or give me a rough where I can understand. Because sometimes they don't even give you a rough that it tells you what direction do you go.
Sure.
And you can manage it if you have 50, 60 tracks, but when you have like 100 plus, it's like, that's a little too much. But yeah, definitely. Track counts. What I don't understand with the higher track counts, for me, doesn't make sense. And when you start seeing like there are like, I don't know, 12 kicks, like,
right.
That at some point a couple of those will go out of phase with each other because they're all samples, because the it's impossible to wave to a line unless you align manually. And why do you fucking need 12 tracks? Right. 12 kicks. You can get a sound with like 2, 3 probably. Yeah. But just because they can, like, especially new producers, young producers, it's just because we can. Sure. We are able to stack, layers and layers and layers. So we tend to think the more is better. And when I asked that question to Neil, that was like a confirmation of something that I've always thought. Like, if you take the biggest, not all of them, but for the most part, my experience at least, let's put it this way, the biggest sounding songs are the ones that have a minimal track count. Sure. Because, you have just that much space. Right. In your tubas, as a headroom, in the arrangement, in just the pattern, the rhythmic pattern. Sure. And the less elements you have, the bigger you can make that sound.
Absolutely. I think all it is now is that people, I don't know if afraid is too strong a word, but people don't want to commit. Yeah. But I don't mind that, as long as, going back to this idea with the backgrounds, that they provide us with a roadmap. But I agree, I occasionally get something and I have no idea what it's supposed to be. And I understand what they're thinking. They're thinking, oh, I'm going to give it to David. He's done this album I admire. Yeah. So therefore, he's going to know better than I am. But that's, then you spend the first day just trying to figure out how to make it even anything work together. Yeah. Before you can even really start mixing.
Yeah, exactly. And that sometimes it's true. I probably know better than, right. Especially if you work with somebody that is not able to make a decision, then probably I'm better making it for you.
I have done it once. We did it once on, I can't remember the project. I'm blanking on what it was. And it was Mark Ender was going to mix. And I literally just said to the other two guys on the team, I was like, it sounds really good. We were really happy with it. We weren't sure quite on some blends. And I was just like, you know what? Let's just give it a mark. We'll give him our rough and we'll give it to him. And he will make some choices. And he did. He muted a couple of things. He cut and pasted an idea from one chorus and put it into another. And we got the mix back and we're like,
Yeah.
So I think as long as you can take it somewhat close to the goal line, maybe you're not going to tap it right in and score, but just take it really close. And otherwise, sometimes if we've got it sounding so amazing and we've made so many decisions anyway, you're like, why are we even giving it to an external mixer?
Yeah, no, exactly. I'm actually, most times, especially for rock and metal albums, producers and artists expect that to me.
Right.
Because I don't know if it's a trademark, if it's something that people started to know me for, but I do that. I do a lot of that. Sure. Like muting and maybe rearranging a couple of things here and there on when I'm mixing. We can say I have a heavy hand if I have the freedom, of course, to do that. Otherwise, I'm not. If it's a new client, it's a matter of trust.
Absolutely.
It needs to
I mean, I find I do. I'll get handed stuff, and there's 3 guitar parts in the chorus, and so it might be 2 like melody lines and 1 chord line. So I'll go to chorus 2, steal the chord line on the chorus 2, bring it over, pan them left and right, and suddenly you've got like full chorus. And I'll do those things that I know will work, and I'll send it back, and 99.9% of the time, nobody even says anything.
Yep.
As long as it sounds better, they've got a smile on their face and they're happy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And this is what we do, right?
That's what we do. It's our job.
We are doing it for so long that we are somehow able to see the potential, and maybe they got a great part, but it's not the right spot, or let's keep that for later. That's a big part of mixing. A lot of people don't talk about it. I feel they're more focused, like all the questions that I'm sure you get too is like what gear, what compressor, what EQ, what that. When the big part is what comes before that, how it makes you feel, how the song progress, start to finish, not what compressor I use on sound. Yeah, we can talk about that, and that has an impact in the mix, but those are details. I feel
like for me, I've been doing like mixing live things, and I've maybe one week we'll be like, we're only going to use Waves plugins, and then we're only going to use IK Multimedia. We're only going to use stock plugins. And I can normally get pretty close to the same result regardless of who I use. I think there's probably for me, and this is just an interesting question. I know you were saying you get asked about plugins a lot, but I think for me, the only 2 plugins that I can't replicate, and maybe there is other versions, are the MV2. I love the MV2 because I love
fantastic.
Isn't it amazing? Because you can just take a bass guitar, it's too dynamic, it's blowing up all over the place, and you just take this slider and you go the low level, you take the high and you put the 2 together, and the bass just comes out.
It's amazing. What is one of the most underrated plugin out there, and it's like, I swear to God, the answer to 50% of dynamic problems in a mix.
It's amazing.
It's amazing. It's like, it should be illegal, that plugin.
Yeah, it's
so
amazing.
Easy to. It feels like cheating.
2 controls and a volume output.
Yeah. But the way I think it's a combination of the transparency of the action and the transparency of the plugin itself. So it's got no harmonic, emulation in it. It just works, and it shows you how many times transparency works better than color, because that's another problem. I feel like saturation on everything or color on everything. No. If everything is colorful, nothing is colorful. If everything is bright, nothing is bright. So that one is an amazing plugin, and again, it tells you transparency. You cannot go wrong with that. Always.
Then the other one for me is just a good old, and I know there's probably other people to make it, but just a good old fashioned R bass.
Oh yeah.
Because it just like gives me low end on my bass guitar, gives me low end on toms.
Yeah.
Boom. Suddenly you got that blip, 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 flat toms. You put that on it, carve out some 350, suddenly it's boom.
Oh yeah. For me, it's like max bass. Don't ask me why, because they are basically the same.
Basically the same thing.
Just because I can see the decay of the harmonics on Max Bass. It's just a visual reference that I'm used to. But totally, I use it not just on tom. I usually I had a couple of videos showing a couple of tricks on vocals, and electric guitars.
Yeah, electric guitars.
If you got a skinny electric guitar, especially rock and metal, that is again another magic plugin.
Because it does that. It almost sounds like and this is the wrong way of explaining it, but almost has like a Pultec sheen. What I mean, it just sort of feels like it got warmer without you hearing EQ.
Yeah.
Because one of the problems with reaching for any kind of EQ is if I pull up 80 hertz and just boost it, it's going to feel like somebody's just forced some 80 hertz. For some reason, that just seems to add this bloom to everything.
Yeah, because the way they work, they're basically psychoacoustic processors, so they spread the boost in like higher harmonics. So you don't have that spike in one specific, harmonic.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and that's psychoacoustic. That's why we like them so much, because they basically work based on how we perceive, how the human ear perceive the music, perceive sounds.
It's really smart.
Yeah, it's
I
really
feel
good.
like, honestly, you give me those two, I can use anybody else's limiters, I can use anybody else's compressors, I can use anybody else's EQs, and there's ones I prefer.
Yeah.
And then if I'm like I recently, I don't know how you feel about this, but I use Bomb Factory 1176, just quick, easy compressor. And then I reach for the IK one, and it's got like a little bit of crunch to it. So that means I don't have to EQ as much. So if I want something to be a little bit more bright or a little bit more aggressive, and I want to compress it lightly, instead of using three instances of something, I'll just put that on and it works.
Yeah, definitely. There are the new generation of plugins. I think this is what they do. They just allow you to use one plugin that does multiple things.
Right.
And especially nowadays, we both have a couple of videos on saturation. Saturation became such an important part in modern mixing.
Sure.
Because of digital.
Yep.
When we use these, we don't have that problem. We have all the saturation we need, all the transients shaved off by transformers. We can push them hard. Nothing bad happens. Digital doesn't. Digital has a ceiling. You push it too hard, it's going to sound like shit. Can I curse in your channel?
Yeah.
And but
we try not to.
Yeah. Okay. Digital is not forgiving, and it lacks the saturation that we get from hardware. That effect is being replicated really good, actually. And I will tell you one plugin that I like that for me I cannot find. I cannot replicate it. The harmonic content, the shaving of the transient, the action the saturation does, so helping us with headroom, eating up nominal level while maintaining the perceived level of the sound at the same, if not enhancing it, is the new generation of plugins does that. So the AK is a good one. I can think of even just straight saturator like Decapitator.
Yeah, that's great.
I like a couple of hidden saturators that Waves has. Like, for example, the Kramer channel, the
Kramer
HLS.
channel, yeah.
He's not meant to do, well, the channel has got saturation, but the compressor, I don't know if you noticed, if you ever run into it, if you put it in limiter mode, and you put the threshold so that the compressor does not work at all, it works like a saturator.
Oh, it does?
It just saturates. Yeah. You just put the ratio at limiting and the threshold all the way up so the needle doesn't move.
Yeah.
If you put it that way and the release all the way fast, it saturates. And it's like no other Wave plugin has that kind of saturation. It's just unique to that one. It's like great.
I didn't know that. I'll try it.
Yeah, try it. It's great. And Waves has a couple of those. I don't remember all of them.
Right.
But they have a couple of plugins that they were not meant to be saturator, but they have, because of a specific setting you run into, they actually work in that way. And that trick that, in a snare, for example, you can shave the nominal level that takes you, 8 dB of headroom on the drum bus and keep it at the same level, perceived at the same level, but it's like 8 dB or 4 dB lower because of saturation.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely. And I feel you when you say to use saturation when you want something brighter, or like a little more present in the mix without using EQ.
Well, we both love the MJUC. I saw that. That's the best value for plugin ever made.
Absolutely.
Value money for plugin ever made.
That is so
and I love
great.
the hi-fi dark and the fact that you can distort the high end first, but in a way that sweetens it. Gets it so it just cuts it in. It's absolutely fantastic.
It's fantastic to the point that all my gear that I had in my studio in Europe, I never bought a Varimu compressor because, honest to God, I could not justify the price.
Right.
Because of that plugin. I was
amazing.
I went back there. I was like, no, this kind of give me all I could.
Yeah, I think it's $30.
Yeah, ask to
and that was his introductory price 2 years ago.
Yeah, it's still the benchmark.
Yeah,
for what it does for that kind of compression.
3 different compressors.
Yeah, three different models. I think it's still the benchmark.
So, what about outside of those? Is there any? And I know you said that you always get asked these questions, so I apologize. But is there anything like just go to of yours that you couldn't live without?
Plugin? Anything? Okay, so
could be hardware.
Yeah, hardware for sure. There are a couple of things.
No, I'd love to know
that I flew here with me. The first one is my 2-bus, which is basically my signal in my 2-bus. It goes first into 2 Neves 542s, the tape emulation, which they have a real actually magnetic tape in them. So it's like the tech inside is like pretty impressive. They sound amazing. I've been mixing into them since the very first week that I got them. So that's my first stage, and for again saturation, and they have a low bump at around 50. You can set it, I think 130, 120, or 50. I keep it at 50. 2 types of transformers. I like the red one. That's my go-to. The blue as a roll off at the high ends. The red is like shiny and bright. I like that. And it's got a blend, so you can blend the tape effect into your mix. I'm usually just 15%, 20%, so it would be 9 o'clock, just to give people an idea. And then my main compressor, my 2-bus compressor, is the West Audio Dion.
Right, that's great.
Which is, amazing. It's basically an SSL compressor.
Yep.
But it's got, aside from the real VCA, the DBX gold in it, and all the components that are amazing. The interesting thing about that compressor, on top of the HPF filters, the regular 90, I think 60, 90, and 150, you also got the T1 and T2. So basically, it's the same internal side chain filter that the API 2500 has, the tilt.
Interesting. Yeah,
that's very. So when I saw that, I was shopping for an SSL compressor because I sold my SSL, like the white one. I was like, no, no jokes. This got like all they can ask from an SSL compressor, and it's got the brilliant tilt in internal sidechain of the API 2500, which I also have, and I love it. So it was like getting the best out of the 2 worlds.
Sure.
And that is my 2-bus compressor. And the last one was my master EQ, which I don't have anymore. And I'm now using the louder than liftoff Chop Chop EQ, which is basically 2 high quality filter, low pass and high pass, and a tilt filter, which is great for me. It's just such a simple control for the 2-bus. If you just, because I don't think you should do a lot of EQ on your 2-bus.
I agree. I just put a video up about that today.
If you find yourself doing like heavy moves on your 2-bus,
you need to find out what the problem is.
Exactly.
Don't fix it on the stereo bus. Yeah.
So that tilt EQ is perfect because it's just so natural, and it's like maybe you landed a little bit too heavy on the low end, but you like the overall balance.
Sure.
And just you tilt it a little back. Those are perfect.
Yeah,
and they're dented so you can recall them.
That's
perfect. Plugin wise, somewhat known for my first slot is always the SSL.
Right.
The channel.
Which one? The Waves one?
G Waves.
The G Waves.
Yeah.
Have you got to try the Brainworks one yet?
I haven't. I tried other SSL G channel. I still go back to Waves.
No, I use the Waves one too.
Yeah.
It's still something we use quite a lot, and I do like the Brainworks one as well. Yeah. I haven't yet. I will do, I promise. I haven't yet used the UAD one.
Okay.
People love it. People love it.
Yeah, I always hear a lot of good things about UAD, and I have a bunch of friends that are heavy users, and I trust them, so I can't imagine they don't sound great.
I just haven't gone into that world yet with the cards, but we are talking. It will happen.
Same here. Same here. Exactly. We are at some point, I guess. We'll both gotta get our hands on that. We have to.
Yeah, exactly.
And they do indeed have, like, they've been around forever, and the whole industry agrees that they have at least among some of the best, plugins out there. So it would be silly not to try them. But yeah, another one that I love, you mentioned Plugin Alliance, is the Alpha compressor, which is amazing for two things. One, for what it's meant to do, so gentle mastering, compression. Very tweakable. You can go down to 1.5 ratio and tweakable sidechain and everything mid-side. But the secret function, because I don't know if I run into these things or I actively search them, but the clipper in it, it's great for that tricks we were talking about.
Sure.
I actually have a video on it because his saturation is so unless you don't abuse it. But you can go down to something like 6 to 8 dB of nominal reduction on transient material like kick and snare without hearing it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that saves you a lot of headroom on your tube bus.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know that my video about loudness, the popular video about loudness.
Right. I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, that is a big part of it.
Right.
Because we know that one of the limits that we have, especially when we go pushing tracks to commercial levels, let's put it this way, it's transient.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And that saturator is a pretty good secret weapon for that.
I'll tell you. I mean, most mastering engineers I speak to these days barely do any compression. It's all just limiting.
Yeah.
They're just shaving off, as Stephen Markson calls it, the fishtails. The fishtails of the kicks and snares. They're just shaving those off. And the
Alpha clipper is good. It's really good for that.
Right.
Really good for that. But I agree. There's so many good plugins out there nowadays. I love the new UVI plate reverb. Did you try it?
I haven't tried it.
I'm going to give it to you.
Yeah, a couple of people have been talking about it, and you mentioned UVI earlier as well. I've got to try more of their stuff. Yeah. I think they sent us, didn't we try something of theirs a long time ago? It was really good. Yeah, we've definitely tried some of their stuff, and it's been fantastic.
Yeah, I'm gonna hook you up with the reverb. I also did a bunch of presets for their plate. It's so great.
I love plates. Yeah. I love plate. I have a plate reverb on every song. I just love you.
Then you're gonna love that. I can assure you that. That is good. That is really good.
I'm a big fan of mono reverbs. They get very underused in rock in particular. But when I'm doing stuff that maybe isn't quite so heavy, you can put a mono verb under a vocal, and it really helps sit it there in the middle.
Definitely, I agree. I do that with mono delays more than reverbs,
right? For
other reasons, of course. Sure. But I got your train of thoughts.
Yeah, because we have this sort of thing where we want everything always to be huge and expansive. It can be very, very counterproductive sometimes with vocals, and you're trying to get width in other things. You're fighting 15 different reverbs trying to all be in the same place.
That's one thing that I have to admit. I learned by mixing hip hop.
Sure.
How to, because I can tell you in the last couple of albums that I mix hip hop, there's probably something like 4 elements that are stereo, if not less than that.
Sure.
And they still sound wide,
right.
But you approach the stereo field in a very different way, even when you go back to rock. When you mix some of that stuff, because it's true that there's a lot more use of mono, because of course in hip hop, they're more used to listen to laptops and iPhones and stuff like that, and
sing in the car.
Yeah.
And
you have to be, if anything, more careful with mono compatibility when with like rock and metal, the wide guitars is like the standard. You can get around that. But you kind of start to contaminate the rock with mono effects more when you started mixing other genres like that, and I think it's beneficial. I like it. I like how it sounds at the end of the day if I tried something like that. So I agree with you. Mono reverbs and mono delays, and it's something we should pay more attention to. Definitely.
Yeah, great. So you've done a course for Pro Mix Academy.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So let's talk about that, because I feel like I never really sort of like directly ever talk about these things, because we do lots of these kind of courses and they do really, really well. Hip hop has always been something which I think is a little dangerous for most rock guys, as I admitted earlier. Like, I go in there with the wrong sort of mindset, because I don't really understand that when they do have these a limited amount of tracks, that is the production. That is the thing, and you have to be very careful. So I'm excited by that, and I've been seeing a lot of your social media, so you've been talking about how you're doing it.
Yeah.
So give us some background on that song and how you did it.
Absolutely. So when we decided to do our first course for Pro Mix Academy for hip hop, I was shopping for a hip hop artist. I wanted an original song, something new, and I wanted to do not just a course on the regular mixing course, but I wanted to do like a full production from scratch. So I was just looking for an artist, and many people you can imagine applied, and I got introduced to, until I found this artist called Diesel. That's from here, California, from Fresno. And we did a couple of sessions. I picked a song. The song was called Photo. And it was just a scratch vocals with a beat. We went into studio, our harmony studio. And in the course, there's going to be everything. There's going to be literally from the very first tracking session.
Nice.
Where it was actually an echo bar in Bob's Horn's room. And then we recorded basically the whole album, because we decided to do a whole album after that song. This is how good that song was.
Great.
And the artist was. So the course is going to be like the full recording.
Great.
We go through all the gear we used, all the settings we used, the microphones, the compressor, preamps, everything. And the way we did it was like, basically the way Diesel works is he have me listening 4 or 5 beats that they have, him and his team, and I'll pick one, the one I like the best, and we started playing it. And he's sitting on the couch, and it's impressive. He's sitting on the couch and goes, throw me words, like tell me what you think, based on the beat that you're listening. And I start to throw in words, right? Random words, random idea, images, pictures, something. And he thinks for like 10 minutes or even less. We come up with the chorus. He checked the chorus with me. And once the chorus is laid down, like on the couch live, he just goes in and does like all freestyle, top to bottom. And that's a song.
Great.
It is fascinating to watch.
That's amazing.
I can tell you, it's like, and the rest of the album, when after that was done, and the mix was done for the Pro Mix course and everything, it was like, I shouldn't say because it's my mix, but it sounds really good.
Well, fantastic.
And we were like, mostly because the song sounds good,
Right.
And that's what I wanted. I wanted to make sure,
right,
for the course. I wanted for the people to say, all right, let's listen to the final product first.
Sure.
And then if it's worth something, I'm gonna be wanting to know how they mix it and how they record it. So that was my first goal.
I'm glad you filmed the recording process as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's what I wanted to do.
So I think this is going to be. We've done like Bob. Obviously, we've done a course with him. We've done quite a few hip hop courses, but I feel like the fact that you come from a rock world and you've developed into a really successful hip hop mixer is going to help a lot of people, because we're all going to be like, hey, we can do it too. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like, because it is a little bit of a mystery world for a lot of rock guys.
Yes, it is. And I think this will open up, eyes for a lot of people, because there's not only the technical aspect, as in what was the settings on the compressor and how many dBs I was compressing. It's there. Because we are geeks and we love that. Yeah. But in the course, you will see the production part. As in, my job was to push the artist, which is our job as producers, to give me his best performance.
Right.
So whatever you have to do, if you have to piss him off.
Right.
If for example, the girl instead that Bella, which is another artist of mine, she did the background vocals on the album. She's super young, super shy. She needed completely the opposite. Right. She needed to be reassured. She needed to be, put in, make her comfortable to like output her voice. It's a beautiful voice, but she's shy. She's not outputting, you know, that much air. It just doesn't give you. She wasn't giving me like the right performance, the whole potential that she has. So we need first, as a producer, to understand how to help the artist give us their best performance.
Absolutely, yeah.
And after that, our mixing is easy, our recording is easier. Let's put it this way. Yeah. But without that, without the performance, we just, you know, our ceiling is how good the material we have is. And yeah, in the course is going to be everything from scratch to the final step in mastering. So the whole production, and I can.
So you did the mastering of it as well?
Yes, I did the mastering as well. It was my baby. I wanted to be good, and I say that in the course. There's probably going to be enough tricks for like 2 generations because I could concentrate really on vocal effects and the progression from the beginning to the end of how the effects progress. There's never nothing is static in that mix.
Right.
It's I think it's a good case study because of that, because there's a lot of automations, a lot of tricks that you can steal and apply to anything. They will not sound the same.
Great.
You know, they're concepts, so you can
it's very exciting.
Yeah.
Can't wait to do it.
Definitely. Go ahead.
Well, marvelous. There will be links for that as well. There'll also be links to your website.
Yes.
Links to your channel.
Thank you.
What else?
Probably Academy is going to be there.
Oh, yeah, everything.
Instagram, Facebook, whatever.
I think I want to get you to answer questions. So give us a whole bunch of comments and questions down below, and I'll throw you under the bus and you can answer them.
Absolutely.
Marvelous.
My pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you much for having me.
Thanks, David. You all rock. Have a marvelous time recording and mixing.